Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties. So 2020 end of the year CLE, lessons learned from a young attorney. As I stated, my name is Gary Williams, and we'll get started. The 10 tips for young attorneys. The first one, forget work-life balance and be kind to yourself. Lawyers' hours are notoriously long, in fact, perhaps the best embraced idea of work.
Gary, you keep going in and out. It may just be your internet connection at work.
So, all right, I'm gonna try to speak into the mic more.
Okay.
All right, so as you know, as an attorney, you work long hours. Those hours are not easy as a young attorney. And so I wrote a little something here about the work-life balance and being kind to yourself during that work-life balance. It says, lawyers' hours are notoriously long. So long, in fact, that perhaps it's best to embrace the idea that work and life are not mutually exclusive. Indeed, they perhaps exist as part of life, your whole life. Achieving balance is less about a sustainable work-play lifestyle and more about enjoying yourself while dedicating your quality time for your loved ones and looking after yourself, rest, exercise, downtime, which we know. Look, guys, you're coming into a profession that's very difficult. If you don't exercise, you don't rest, and you don't get away time. I think that, having clients 24/7 calling you, that was my first thing in my first year. I was like, okay, I'm going to hit the ground running. I don't need time off. I'm fresh out of law school, past the bar. Let's go. But you need to rest. You definitely need to pick up a hobby. My hobby is exercising. Your hobby can be whatever you want to do. And you need time to yourself, downtime. I go on to say it's an approach that I view as fundamentally being kind to yourself. As a new lawyer, you're likely to make mistakes. However, as a well-trained pessimist, lawyers are often far too hard on themselves for making mistakes. Instead, reframe your mistakes as a necessary lesson, one learned by countless lawyers before you. As long as you learn and constantly improve, it is a mistake well worth making. While doing all of the life balance things, make sure that you understand that mistakes happen. I can tell you, I was filing a motion for summary judgment, and it was my first one. And I went into it knowing I can do this. I don't need any help. I'm not going to make any mistakes. I read the code, everything that's needed, but I made a mistake. In that particular district court, your exhibits have to go behind your memo, and some want it behind the order. Well, I put my memos, my exhibits behind my order in this particular instance, and this particular court wanted it behind the memo. A mistake. And it happens, guys. It happens 24/7. Even well-seasoned attorneys make mistakes. It happens. But you can't let that deter you from, one, asking questions, or deter you from going out and doing things and making mistakes and learning. Because of the part about being a young attorney is you learning from your mistakes that you make. And you're learning to become better. And then you can mentor somebody else off of the lessons that you learned from that mistake. So make sure that when you make mistakes, understand it's okay. Tip 2, negotiate like a pro. Negotiating on behalf of your client is part of every lawyer's day-to-day workload. Doing so effectively requires you to develop an emotional intelligence and empathy, 2 skills not easily taught. To succeed as a negotiator, keep in mind it's crucial to be hard on the problem, but soft on the people. In other words, be firm in your client's position without making it personal. For the person sitting across from the negotiation table, be courteous and collaborative as a negotiator. After all, settling the situation in the negotiation room is likely more applicable and less expensive for your client than taking it to court. In this particular instance, I wanted to just touch on negotiating like a pro. We all are advocating for our clients. We all want our clients to be able to, at the end of the day, say, hey, this attorney represented me to the best of their ability, right? But at the same time, you're a new attorney. You want to make sure that your bosses know that you can do the work. Be smart about that. I say be smart about that because sometimes negotiating a settlement or sometimes negotiating terms outside of court can be better than you trying to get that trial experience, being very hard-nosed and not taking those recommendations from outside counsel, maybe your bosses, and you taking it upon yourself to go and say, I'm not going to negotiate, we're going to go to court. Sometimes going to court is beneficial to you and your client. And at the end of the day, you're representing your client. So you have to make sure that when you're representing your client, you're doing what's in the best interest of your client. And at the same time, when you're at the negotiation table, or you're over the phone, or you're over the email, make sure that you're being courteous to your opposing counsel. I cannot tell you how many opposing counsels I have right now that I'm dealing with, and we're all collaborative. Look, I have a hearing this day, maybe an hour after this hearing that we have. Is there a way I can push it back? Is there a way we can continue it to next week? Or is there a way we can call the court and say we've agreed that we can push it back to the next open date? That's the type of activity that you want to have, because your reputation is based off of how you interact with your fellow attorneys. And you don't want to be that person. No, we can't. My client wants to get this done now. After a while, I understand that if the case has been going on for a while, but everyone has things that come up. And you want to make sure that when they have these things come up, because you'll have things come up, I promise you will, things you won't even account for. So you want to have and give the person the same grace that you were given. So make sure that you're amicable, make sure that you're courteous to the attorneys across the table for you, because none of this is personal. We all have a job, and that job is to advocate for our clients. But no one said you can't meet and have a meeting of the minds and try to, be as courteous as you as possibly can. Okay. So make sure that you always keep. Number 3, master practical legal skills, including advocacy, drafting, and always stay prepared. Other bread and butter activities of lawyers include advocacy and drafting. Persuasion lies in the heart of advocacy. Be structured, succinct, and engaging. Support your arguments with well-chosen exhibits. Above all, thoroughly. Preparation makes presentation simple. Drafting, for example, a statutory declaration could be written as a written extension of verbal advocacy. In addition to delivering succinct and well-supported arguments, it is essential to avoid those facts that are non-applicable to this case. It's a common trap for lawyers. So what I wanted to talk about, especially that, is in law school, you have to be prepared to write for an exam. In law school, you have to be prepared to you're going to write for 3 to 4 hours for an exam. My biggest issue coming out was writing too much when I became an attorney. I wanted to keep the law school mindset and write. But I had to be taught that you can't do that. You have to succinctly put your thoughts into a paper, a memo, a petition. And that memo and petition can get you your win or your loss. But you have to make sure that you can adapt to how the court wants to see it done. You're no longer in school. It's not a let's do a final type of thing. You have to be succinct and you have to be prepared. I'll say preparation is important. Even before this, I was preparing. Professor Dickerson could tell you, like, I was preparing. I was talking to myself, and she had to ask me, "Are you talking to yourself, or you want me to listen?" I said, "No, I'm just talking to myself." Being prepared for your court appearances, being prepared for your arguments for exceptions, being prepared for your appellate arguments, being prepared for your Supreme Court arguments. If you're prepared, you're not nervous. Look at the district rules on the Supreme Court website. Look at the appellate rules on their website. Look at the Supreme Court rules on their website and act accordingly. And if you're prepared for everything with your argument, your law, your supporting exhibits, there's no reason to be afraid. You're going to have jitters, but being prepared is going to get you through those jitters. So make sure that you're always prepared for questions that may come up, always prepared for what you're not prepared for. The court may say we're having difficulties with the Zoom, because I was in a hearing this morning, and the court had difficulties at the 19 JDC with Zoom. I had another hearing to get to, which, see, I was prepared so I could lapse over the time that I thought I could allot myself, because I was prepared the night before. So when I get to, and it'll happen. We're in the society of Zoom now. So with Zoom, you have to make sure with your arguments, the way the courts are going, you never know when your argument's going to be. Will your argument be one is at 10, one's at 1, but you never know how long that docket is. So you always want to be prepared. You always want to be structured. You always want to have your answers succinct. And like you would in law school, if you have a little paper there, succinct little points, you're good. I always bring that into court with me, just in case I forget something. And you will forget something. You'll forget, okay, maybe this argument's this, maybe this argument's that, or, have a, B, and C argument. That's what I always do. I have my A argument, my B argument, and my C argument. If my A argument's working, cool. But I might mention that B argument if I feel like the judge is not really liking the A argument, but then I'll have a C argument so I can top it off and it'll be cherry on the top. So always be prepared, always have your arguments, always have your case law, always have your code of civil procedure, and always be prepared for something unexpectedly to happen. We're in the nation of Zoom now, so you have to be prepared that something may not work. 4, find a mentor. This is very important, especially now with COVID happening and everything.
You went out again, Gary. Okay, there you go. You're back.
Okay. Mentors are excellent resources. Most importantly, mentors are those people that you can call when you need advice on motions for summary judgment, on motion to eliminate. How your voir dire is going to go. You need advice on how the appellate court is going to, if you're going before an appellate court, you've never been in front of an appellate court before, but your mentor may have been in this appellate court before. Mentors are also an excellent source of contacts, and most importantly, only agree to be mentors because they are passionate about your progress. Formal mentoring programs can exist within your firm or your legal professional body. However, you can also form your own mentors relationship if you meet someone you find inspiring. Approach them. The worst that can happen is they are too busy to assist. I think that sometimes we get lost in what if they say no? But if they say no, they'll probably be able to help you to find somebody if they're too busy, right? So don't get discouraged by a no, or I'm a little too busy. They'll probably be able to help you. But when I tell you mentors are very important, mentors are those people that you can call at any time. I know for sure I can call Professor Dickerson at any time. And if I don't know something, she'll be able to help me. And the key is to ask the question, because the question that you're asking is the question your mentor has probably went through. But the question that you have to ask those questions, right? And you have to make sure that when you ask those questions, that when you pick a mentor, that is an ideal person who you can see as a mentor or a big brother, or big sister, or somebody you can see that I want to frame my legal career maybe on what they have done, or maybe grow my legal career and get some advice from this person. Your mentor is so important, because that mentor really is able to talk you through a lot of things. Because when you finish law school, you've been through the educational part, you've been through the exam part, but you have never been through the practical part. And the practical part is something you'll never know how to move with unless you do it. Practically practicing law is not the same as law school. And that's one of the things I had to learn very early, that I had to get out of that law school mindset. And so find you a mentor, someone that's reliable, that you can call at any time, but someone that's been experienced, that can tell you the do's and don'ts that you need to do in certain situations. Number 5, never let doubt scare you. You went to law school. You're intelligent. Clearly, your judgment's good. Never let you being new to the profession scare you. You have a bar roll number just like everybody else. You're intelligent just like everybody else. You finish law school just like everybody else. So I think that sometimes we get out into the profession, and sometimes the profession isn't as welcoming sometimes as it can be. And so sometimes that puts doubt in us, like, oh man, this person's smarter than I am, or none of that. Don't let that doubt scare you. You went to law school, you have the intellect, you have the judgment, and you have the bar roll number. So own your craft. You're in a field where your potential is limitless. You're an attorney, and make sure that when you go into that office or you go into that courtroom, no matter if you're across from an opposing counsel that's 30 years in the game, you're courteous, but you're defending your client, and you can't be scared because of the unknown or because of the opposing attorney having so much experience. You have all of the tools necessary. Every day you have to wake up and you have to believe that. You have to own your craft. Take ownership of your work product. Going into law school, I always was very particular about how I said things. I always wanted to make sure it's the final product, even if it's a draft. I'm going to finish it like a final product.
You going out again, Gary. Okay, you're back.
Oh, Jesus. When you're starting to practice law, you have to make every submission like a final draft or submission, because you never know whose eyes are going to see your product. You never know that. It could be draft 1. And I'm going to make sure my citations are correct. I'm going to make sure my spelling is correct. I'm going to make sure my sentence structure is correct. I'm going to make sure commas and semicolons are there. I'm going to make sure everything's cited the way it's need to be cited. You never know who's going to see your work product. You never know where your work product's going to go after you send it out. It can go to a particular person, but you don't know. So I always say, take ownership of your work product. Taking ownership equals success, because once you leave and you understand that product has left your email to go to someone else's email, you understand at that point, look, I've done my best. It's like a bar exam. Look, when you left the bar exam, or when you leave your final exam, once you turn it in, hey, I've done my best. Here it is. I can only do my best. But you can't turn anything in that you know is not 100% your best work, because your best work is the work that you want to turn in every time. Eyes are watching. That's all I can tell you. Eyes are always watching, no matter what product it is. And on top of that, you don't know if it's going to be, public record. You don't know how that's going to go. So make sure that when you turn something in, it's attached to your bar roll number. Make sure that every submission of your work is prepared as though it's the final product. Make the most of opportunities. All right, man. You have to make sure that even if you're in a place, in a field that you're not particularly liking, let's say you're doing personal injury, or let's say you're doing family law, and the job market's very scarce right now. The job market's hard. Make sure that wherever you're employed, you're making the best of the opportunities that you're getting, right? I say here, if you are employed, but not in the field of your choice, you'll have to figure out how that experience and that skill you have will be useful for your ideal employer. Some transferable skills are legal research and personal development, to name a few. You might not like personal injury. You might not like family law. But what can you learn from that firm or from that job that you're at when you get to the place that you do like. Like I said here, personal management. If you have a secretary and a paralegal, how are you interacting with those? If you have research that you're doing and you're using Westlaw or you're using whatever you're using, how is that going to help me benefit me to the point that's going to further me into the ideal situation that I'm in, ideal job that I'm in? Sometimes you don't get the best job or the job that you want at first, but you get a job. So you have to make sure that you're making the most of the opportunity for a job. I say here, wherever you're working, make the most of the experience. Observe everything and learn from it. Find out how the lawyers bring in clients. Who do they frequently talk to? How do they market themselves? And what conferences do they attend? That's important. How do they market yourself? How do you market yourself as an attorney to a firm that you want to go to or to an agency that you want to go to? You can learn from the place that you maybe don't want to be in, but you're blessed enough to have a job, right? So learn from that place. What conferences do they attend? Maybe from there, you can network yourself to other conferences. Well, now it's virtual, but you know what I mean. You can network yourself. And who do they frequently talk to? What's the client base? Or who do they get their clients from? Or who goes and gets their clients? Do they have somebody to go? What marketing tools do they use? There's so much that you can use to make the most of the opportunity, no matter where you are. So when you get ready to go to the ideal job, you're the ideal candidate, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about them hiring you. You're not in the right situation right now that you want to be in, but guess what? You can still grow and you can still learn. All right, number 8, we're in debt. Let's just be honest, we're in debt. I say, do not obsess over student loans because right now we're good. But I know people that stress over it. Look, student loans are going to happen. They're there. They're not going anywhere. You're going to have to pay it, whatever. Have a general plan for paying them off or plan for loan forgiveness through an income-based program and relax. I know so many people that became attorneys, and the next thing they want to do is they want to go straight into paying, and they want to go straight into stressing. Like, oh my God, I'm in so much debt. I want to do this, that, and the third. But guess what? Relax. Make a plan. It's like a business plan. Make a plan and stop stressing about it. Obsessing over student loans is not a productive use of your time. I get that you might want to take it might make you focused or driven, but for every hour you spend analyzing how many ways to refinance your existing loans or setting up hypothetical repayment situations is 1 hour loss that you could use to beat people virtually. Don't forget that. Or sleep or read your treatise. Like you're stressing about something that's going to be there. So don't stress over student loans. Make a plan for it, of course. Stick to that plan, but don't stress. Manage your time and document everything. Look, time management is something we mostly all learned in law school. Some of us had it before. Time management is important because I don't know where everybody is, but most people have to build. So you have to make sure that you're time managing yourself to the point where you can build accurately. And if you don't have to build, you still have to meet with clients. You still have to make sure that your petitions and motions are getting in on time. You have to make sure your discovery is coming back. You have to make sure your judgments are made and sent to the judge for signature. You have to make sure your calendars are not overlapping with dates. If it is, you have to call opposing counsel to extend or continue. Make sure that you manage your time every day. The first thing I do when I come into my office is I have my secretary send me my schedule. What do I have for the month of January? Let's make sure we do not overlap on anything because you are advocating for your client. And if you're advocating for your client, you should be able to advocate for them, not worrying about getting to another hearing within 30 minutes after the hearing starts. their hearing starts. Manage your time and make sure that if you can't manage your time, make sure you have someone in your staff, support staff, that can help you, because you're managing not only your time, but your client's time. And document everything to avoid being an extra source of stress and dissatisfaction with your work. Have a system in place to record all your assigned, all you do to your assigned client or administration. That's for the billers. But document all your conversations that you have with your clients, time, date, time it started, time it ended. That's important, because if you're billing them for anything, you want to make sure you have that documentation there, no matter what. Always make sure that if it's billable, that you document it. Your support staff, I can't stress how important that is, man. Document everything. Our clients are our clients. We love them. But sometimes we can have discrepancies with stuff. And so you want to make sure that if there is a discrepancy, if there is something there that may be a discrepancy, that you have everything documented. You have the 1 minute phone call that you called them just to verify that the address was correct. Document it. The 2 minute face-to-face meeting, they came to the office to give you something. Document it. Because when you're sending them the list of everything, their charges, you want to make sure you can back up everything you're saying on those charges. Because if you can't, it creates a bad day, and you don't want that. So make sure you document everything and make sure everything you can back up. Lastly, for the tips, find out what works for you. Always remember, you'll get plenty of advice, but that advice will be filtered through the lens of their experience, not yours. Even what I'm telling you today, it's filtered through my lens in my first year experience. Your experience may be different.
You're going out again, Gary. No. I see your lips moving. Still can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Okay. Always remember that your experiences are filtered. Always remember that the advice you're getting, and that advice will be filtered.
You went out again.
My goodness. Can you hear me now? You know? Hello?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Always remember that you'll get plenty of advice, and that advice will always be filtered through the experience of other people. Even what I'm telling you today will be filtered through the advice of other people, myself, or things I've learned. Make sure you find out what works for you. I think that it's very important that you find a niche that works for you, as far as your petitions, as far as your court appearances, as far as how you set up your trials, as far as how your trial prep goes, how many days you want to trial prep, as far as how you find your mentor, as far as how you want to time manage. Everything I'm saying today, or anyone that's going to tell you within your first year, all of that experience and advice is filtered through our experiences. So if it doesn't work for you, create another space for yourself, create another lane, and make sure that when you create that lane, understand there's nothing wrong with that, but your experience is how you view it. The advice that we give you is just that advice. But if it's not how you work, if it's not how you operate, find out what works for you. All right, so I wanted to touch bases on this a little bit, starting your own firm. Because some people, you've became an attorney, you've become an attorney now, and sometimes you want to just hang your own shingles. Sometimes you want to start your own firm. All right, so what's your purpose? What are you going to be doing? Like, what's your specialization? Are you going to be in tort law? Are you going to be in family law? Are you going to be a mixture? I think before you even start your firm, you need to figure out a business plan and a legal plan of what you're going to be doing. Mentoring, we talked about that earlier.
You froze, Gary. I don't know if you can hear us or hear me. I'm about to call him, guys, so I can let him know that he froze. The joys of having virtual anything. So he will be back shortly.
Can you hear me, Marla?
Yes.
Okay. Jesus, I'm so sorry. Let me share the screen again. I apologize, guys.
That's okay. We're in a virtual world, so things happen.
All right. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So purpose. I wanted to touched on purpose already. And I wanted to go to mentoring. Make sure that you have a mentor. Make sure that the mentoring helps you understand if you want to start your own firm, what that looks like. If you want to hang your own shingles, what the malpractice insurance looks like. If you want to hang your own shingles, how the case management is. If you want to hang your own shingles, what the client management looks like. You need to make sure that you get a mentor that has their own firm, that has been doing it probably for a while, and that you can look up to. Name selection. I think name selection is very important. Name selection is one of those things you want to know what the name is going to be. If you have partners, whatever y'all agree on, make sure that you register that with the Secretary of State, and then that Secretary of State will help. We'll register the name, and then it'll go from there. Registering your business, you have to make sure you have that employee identification number. Make sure you get that, and make sure, of course, like I said, register your name, and then you can start your firm from there. What type of firm is it? Do you have an LLC? Do you have an LP? Do you have an LLP? Do you have a sole proprietorship, or do you have a corporation? Those are just some of the things you want to go through and make sure that you understand before you start your own firm. Law firm structure. What do you want to see? Do you want a physical office, or do you want a virtual office? Some people say there's good in one and there's bad in one, and some people say there's good in both. You got to figure out what works for you. Do you want that physical? Do you want that virtual? And these are just some pros and some cons about each one. The physical structure, there's overhead, there's expenses, there's furniture, there's leasing, there's premises liability.
I think your mic went out, Gary. I don't know if you're frozen again.
You know?
Yes.
All right, so there's overhead for the physical structure, there are expenses, there's furniture, there's leasing, there's rental, there's travel, there's distractions. You want to have a good security system. There's a clothing expense because you want to go to work every day looking nice. And there's an office sharing. So those are some of the things with the physical structure. With the virtual structure, there's minimal overhead. There are less expenses, less travel. There are less distractions. There are less physical interactions with clients. The lack of meeting space, though, there's more life flexibility. But do you have that separate work and home life? And there's a stigma that virtual sometimes is not the best. So you have to make sure that if you're doing the virtual, that the virtual is good and that you can be disciplined But if you're doing the physical, you have to make sure that you can keep up with all the bills that are going to come with that physical place, because there will be bills in there, and there will be things you have to pay for, such as overhead, leasing, and staff, and all that good stuff. So make sure that whenever you're trying to start your own law firm and you're doing your own shingles, make sure that you'll be able to heed to those different pros and those different cons. Self-care. I think we talked about this earlier. Self-care. Self-care for the mental and the physical part of self-care is so important. Eat good stuff, and you have to take care of your body. Your body is one of those things that it's going to be with you for the rest of your life, your whole life. So you got to make sure that you're taking care of it by eating good stuff and getting breakfast, getting lunch, getting dinner. Practice meditation, exercise, organize, manage. Those are so important because you will burn out if you don't. And you don't want to burn out, because when you burn out, you just don't burn out for that one day. You burn out completely. And you have people that you have family, you have friends that want to see you do well, and they don't want to see you in a predicament now where you're burning out and you're physically hurting yourself because you're trying to do too much and you're not taking care of yourself. Set clear boundaries early. Know your days off. I'm working Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, it's my time. Or for reversal, during the week if you want a day. And make sure that you maintain those boundaries and say no. Make sure you say no to reasonable requests. Be assertive on your no. Stand on your no, because your no is you taking care of yourself. Respect your downtime and maintain community. What I mean by that is you're maintaining your community involvement. If you're social, you're maintaining your community involvement to your church, if that's what you do. You're maintaining your community involvement to nonprofits. Don't let being an attorney stop your life because you're working so much. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself mentally and physically, and make sure that you're making time for your family and your other obligations. And lastly, celebrate. I say that because you have been in law school for 3 years. You were in college before that. You have the right to celebrate. I know so many people that went right after the bar and said, let's go find a job. Complete, like, they didn't celebrate. You have to celebrate. This is one of those accomplishments that people don't get every day. You're an attorney. You make sure that no matter what happens, you celebrate this accomplishment and let no one take away anything, because you worked hard, you bust your tail for it, and right now you're living your dream. So if you haven't already, celebrate virtually, of course. If you haven't already, but make sure you take time just to celebrate this, because it is an amazing accomplishment. It's an accomplishment that doesn't happen every day. So make sure that you celebrate. And that's all I have as far as my presentation. So if you have any questions, maybe.